What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2. And well, as y'all know, it is Wednesday, which means the new summit is now live. And for this week, we have the Into the Storm. I would say many players are probably going to end up participating in this summit because that BMW M8 performance is honestly looking pretty insane. I cannot wait to actually drive that thing. And similar to other summits where the car is going to be as a reward, you will be able to drive the car in the Summit as well, which I would say a lot of players are going to like that because maybe you might be mixed on this vehicle, or maybe you're wondering if you actually want it. So at least you get to see what the car does actually look like. I will also be doing the Stingray Interception Unit video later on in the week. I actually never got that car when it did come out back in the day, so I'm happy to see that thing return. But moving over to the next summit, guys, is going to be the Rider Challenge, which is going to have a nitro chemist set for the motocross class, and I would say this is probably one of the best sets to actually go after. The main reason for this, guys, I feel like the MX bikes in this game is probably not many players' favorites. I would like to know what you guys think about them in the comments below, but if I had to guess, I would say most players probably don't feel like actually leveling them up, so at least you can get yourself one of the chemist sets for them. And then in gold we have the 450 EXC, which is actually a pretty dang good bike. But jumping into this summit though, guys, I did notice something about it. You're going to get yourself a new bike as well, the FTR 1200S, which I do believe is going to be an Indian. I actually really like the look of this bike in real life as well. This thing is pretty sweet. Looking forward to seeing how it's going to handle on the Crew 2. It is indeed going to be in the street class, so if I had to guess as well, I would probably say the FTR is probably going to do like 205 to like 209 miles per hour. So it's most likely not going to be breaking any records, unfortunately, unless they do something insane with it. But moving over to the next summit, guys, is probably going to be an insanely intense one. The Untamed Italians is once again coming back, guys. I would say many players definitely want the Performante. I can really see where you guys are coming from because this car is honestly awesome. And then in gold, we're going to have the legendary half set boosted for the drift class, which depending on what the multiplier on that set is probably going to be a really good one. And now moving into the Storm Summit here, guys. So one thing I do want to mention, kind of hence the name with the summit, basically every single event in this one is going to be like one of the Into the Storm races here, and I would say only one of them's kind of on the annoying side. I do think the rest of them really aren't that bad at all here, but starting off with the first event is going to be a speed trap. So this is going to be on the New York Bridge. I did use the Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. I know that's kind of a shocker. I really never see anybody use this vehicle. But nonetheless, though, I would definitely say this is probably going to be your best option. If you guys wanted to, though, you could probably get a way higher score than I did on this one. But do keep in mind, you will have to slipstream somebody again to get that higher top speed on this one. But moving over to the next event is going to be an aerobatic skill here. So for this one, I did run the Zivko Edge 540. But to be honest, I would say you could basically run any plane of your choice. I think it kind of comes down to preference, though, and like the best handling of the plane that you guys might want to use. So at least there's going to be different options if you guys do not actually have the Zivko Edge. But again, I would definitely recommend trying out this plane because I do feel like it's pretty dang good. But moving over to the next skill is going to be a slalom. I would say most players are definitely going to recognize this one very fast. So it's going to be the New York Airport. I did run the Ducati Panigale R, and for this slalom, guys, you can basically use any vehicle of your choice, which I do think a lot of players are really going to like this due to the fact that you can actually use different vehicles and you don't have to run a rally raid truck or something like that. You can jump into like a hypercar, a street vehicle, and or a touring car, even an Alpha GP. Just make sure you guys do have that score breaker set on there because for this you guys will be competing against many players. If I had to guess, this summit might end up seeing around 100,000 players. So now moving over to the street races here, which I would say is basically going to be this entire summit. So for this, guys, I will talk about this one, the one in the middle, and or the one on the bottom as well. So for all the no restriction races though, I actually use the exact same vehicle, the Lamborghini Huracán. I would definitely say this car is probably going to be in like the, I guess, underrated category for that matter. This car is honestly really good. My friend actually used the No Rules Edition, which by the way is going to be the fastest street car in the entire game. So that car is going to be an insanely good option, mainly because of the insane top speed that it does have. I also noticed many of these races seem to be very open as well, but moving over to the bottom event with the Stingray is also going to be pretty straightforward as well, which I think a lot of players are going to like that. And not only that, guys, I would say the Stingray race seems to be pretty dang decent, so definitely stay tuned for that video later on in this week. And then moving over to the forced vehicle race is going to be in one of the Into the Storm events as well. And well guys, I have to admit one thing, I would say this BMW is definitely going to be insanely unique looking. I'm actually really digging the body kit on this car. Not only that though, it does seem to handle pretty dang good. I would say it's probably going to need some type of tweaking to it, but overall, I would say this car is definitely going to have some potential. And now moving over to what I would say is probably going to be the most annoying event in this entire summit, guys, is going to be on the bottom. It's going to be Bite the Dust, and for this, it's going to be an insane storm in this one. So if you guys might have been wondering, one of the biggest tips I can give for this event is when you guys are getting blown all over the place by the wind, which I did notice at times can be kind of annoying as well. So when you guys are getting pushed all over the road by the wind, and or it actually wants to push you off for that matter, and having half your vehicle in the dirt can definitely mess up what you guys are trying to do in this event. So for this, I would recommend pushing your analog stick just a little bit to the opposite side of the wind. So for example, in this event, it will be pushing you from the right. So I would recommend pushing your stick a little bit to the right as well. I was noticing by doing this that it was actually helping a lot because it would keep you on the road a lot easier, and the wind would obviously fight you. And when you guys do go around corners, and if you guys are turning like into the wind, for example, I notice it will push you even more. So that's most likely going to happen regardless. But at least doing this will keep you on the road a little bit easier, allowing you to get a higher score on this event. And now moving over to the last event in the summit is actually not going to be an Into the Storm event, which I would say is going to make many people happy for that matter. But for this one, you guys will have to use a touring vehicle, and luckily you get to drive one of the best touring cars in the game, the Lamborghini Gallardo. This car is honestly incredible. It's also going to be on a street event as well, which is going to be the Central Woods West. This race in particular is actually really fun, and I actually enjoyed this one as well, and my goodness, the Lamborghini Gallardo completely owned this event. I honestly wasn't that surprised with how good the Super Trofeo actually did on this event because overall, guys, this is going to be a touring vehicle, and my goodness, it was completely gripping the road like madness. But I would really like it if we can actually use touring vehicles in like street events. Like, you guys imagine how fun that would be? I have most likely mentioned this a tad too many times, but my goodness, that would be so much fun to be able to use like a touring vehicle in like a street race or like a street car in a hyper race. I really do feel like many players would probably really enjoy this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but besides that, I would say that would basically sum it up for this summit. Most of the races in this one, guys, are honestly really fun. I would say the only annoying one's going to be on the bottom left, which is Bite the Dust. This race is definitely going to blow you all over the place, no pun intended, but besides that, I would say the summit is a pretty good time, and that BMW M8 is also pretty awesome.